Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Sports and Pastime. I'm Faisal Shariff.
Hi, and I'm Prem Panicker, recording from another room, another place. But the big news we now have the semi-final lineup for the Champions Trophy. India will play Australia at the Dubai International Stadium, and New Zealand will take on South Africa in the second semi-final. So, Faisal?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited seeing finally Varun play and walking away with the man of the match. You know, you and I have been talking about it that what's holding India back from playing Varun. Though I would have preferred that he would have played in place of Jadeja and we would have had the extra seamer because seeing how the New Zealand Pacers did in the first innings, I thought it would be important that India continues with that 3-and-3 option of three seam bowlers and three spinners. But having said that, what a commanding performance, and I didn't expect it to be such a comfortable win. I thought New Zealand would push India because they were doing that for a good part of the match. But I think once Varun came into his own and the guys started missing, underestimated the revs on the ball that were coming from Varun, I think it was settled that walking away
Yeah.
with another man of the match.
Agree. At the halfway stage, I thought New Zealand had this covered. They bowled brilliantly. They fielded brilliantly. That fielding inside the ring by New Zealand, where they just choked down the singles, I thought was amazing. Two brilliant catches, actually in the same position, but one was Glenn Phillips and one was Kane Williamson. Yeah, at the halfway stage, New Zealand seemed to be cruising to a fourth successive victory, but yeah, the bowling in the middle overs during the chase was just outstanding from the Indians, particularly Varun, like you pointed out. This seems to be, if I mean, since we are playing in Dubai, hopefully the semifinals, we win the semifinal, we'll play the final also in Dubai. This seems to be probably close to the best combination that we can field. I still agree with you about maybe Varun instead of Jadeja and Nitish Rana, or preferably Arshdeep as the third seamer. That would be an unbeatable team. But yeah,
Yeah, I think you got it bang on. I think Arshdeep needs to play in the semifinals against Australia. That would be complete. So you would have three options. Though Hardik is bowling very well, and he was really, really
yeah.
good today. But you don't want to take a chance and go into such a big game and then realizing we should have that extra seamer. Because, you know, wickets, you can never predict them. You can have all the information in the world you want, but how it turns up and how it behaves on the day, it's, uh, it's always a 50-50. But what do you think
Also,
about Henry's
uh,
performance on a wicket like this, Prem?
absolutely stunning. Yeah, it's such a difficult wicket to bowl on. Actually, not just Matt Henry, even O'Rourke bowled exceptionally well in the early phase. Actually, all the three New Zealand bowlers. I still thinking of the India-Australia matchup and Arshdeep. One of the things that you need to be wary about is the Travis Head factor. Travis Head will play guys like Shami, and we keep running into trouble in ICC tournaments against Travis Head. Arshdeep would be the X factor that you can bring in the opening, power
Yeah.
play. So yeah, but yeah, Matt Henry was outstanding. I think New Zealand didn't put a foot wrong in the first half of the match. The second half of the match, Rachin Ravindra, okay, played a shot one-handed uppercut, and a great catch by Aksar, by the way. Very difficult to
Yeah.
judge a catch
Yeah.
that is falling in front of you. Uh, Rachin's was a bit of a throwaway wicket, but I thought they lost the match during that partnership between Kane Williamson and Daryl Mitchell, where the partnership was just going nowhere, and that was piling on the pressure on the batsman to follow. So, yeah, it was.
In fact, I thought,
But
Prem, that
on the.
when Daryl Mitchell got
Yeah,
out, I thought they should have sent in, maybe Santner should have brought himself on and gone for the runs because that would have taken the pressure of Kane Williamson because I think he had decided that he would drop and bat out 50 overs. If he'd done that,
yeah,
he would have got to the New Zealand would have got to the total. I think that's what he wanted. But I think they miscalculated a bit over there and went with the conventional batting order. If they had just sent a pinch hitter there at that time and said, just go out, if you get out for a zero, cool. If you get us like a 20, 25 in 10, 11 balls, changes the equation completely.
Yeah, it breaks the match open, right? Yeah, it's surprising that New Zealand missed a fairly obvious trick, but on the plus side, after three defeats, we've got one win against New Zealand, so there is that. Again, on the plus side, we've gone through the league undefeated, so there is that. You carry that sort of confidence
Yeah,
into the semi-final, and I think the other thing that will make India fairly confident is Australia's bowling almost close to pathetic. They're just not there at the death. Uh, so that is a big bonus. The batting may not suffer so much, but the bowling they really know their superstar trio. There's way too much pressure, and let's face it, a combination. I mean, Zampa is not a Varun Chakravarti or even an Akshar Patel. So,
true.
uh,
Yeah.
and you have
But
Shreyas
do you
Iyer
think
in
that
the
the
middle
toss
to take
becomes a
down
big
spin.
factor then? Yeah, yeah,
The toss becomes a big factor in two ways, right? One is, I'm guessing that if this trend continues, batting becoming harder in the second half of the match, then you really want to put runs on the board and put pressure on the opposing team. And again, it goes back to the point about Australia is not the strongest bowling side at this point. So you want to attack the weak part of a team right at the beginning, and the weak part of Australia is very clearly the bowling. So put pressure on the bowlers by batting first, going hard at them both in the first power play and at the death. And that pressure will then translate. And then you have the four spinners to choke down Australia's batsmen. So that would probably be. Actually, both the semifinals are proving to be interesting strategic contests. India versus Australia is one, but equally New Zealand versus South Africa, you have a lot of. New Zealand is brilliant at shutting down run scoring. South Africa is the form
yeah.
team as far as batting is concerned. Both teams have a good bowling lineup.
No trouble.
It's and both teams feel brilliantly. South Africa is no less than New Zealand. They may not have a Glenn Phillips, but they do field exceptionally well.
Yeah. Bavuma is a brilliant fielder. They've got some really, really.
Yeah,
They're a brilliant fielding side.
yeah,
But I was
and
just
all
going
round.
back to your thing, Prem, just going back to that Australia and the toss for the semi-finals. I don't know. I have a feeling that after what Australia has done with England, India will be wary that Australia can chase down anything, and I think that might have a bearing on them if they win the toss. Though it doesn't look like it because Rohit is now lost. I think how many 10 on the trot tosses?
No, 13. 13. I
Shit.
think today was the 14th toss or something. Yeah, either the
Oh my
13th or the
God,
14th
that's crazy.
loss. So, I mean, on the plus side, you could say that law of averages has to catch up, and one of these days he's got to call right. But whatever. See, one thing is, yeah, Australia, that chase was excellent. But again, I mean, look at the English bowling lineup. Other than Adil Rashid and for some parts, Jofra Archer, they never. I mean, England seemed to come into this contest with the impression that they could just frighten everybody with pace, and you're playing that game
Yeah,
on some of the slowest wickets that are going. So Markwood came and bowled very fast and disappeared even faster. What was the point? I don't
yeah,
think Australia will find it as easy to chase against this Indian lineup, which takes the pace off the ball and makes it very difficult to, hit the ball. So yeah, you never know what India will do. But if I was calling the game, I would say if you win the toss, which is a big if with Rohit, but if you win the toss, bat first, put runs on the board, and put Australia under pressure. And it's relatively easier to put runs on the board against. See, one of the things that you notice, New Zealand bowls very well at the death. So if you looked at
mm,
today's game, uh, if you remember, Shreyas Iyer got out in the 37th over, 36.2. the second ball of the 37th over, the score was 172, right? The next
Yeah,
13.4 overs, that is 82 balls, India managed to score only 77 runs. That's how well New Zealand
yeah,
bowled and
that's
fielded
true.
in the back end of the
Yeah,
innings. It's a phenomenal performance. England is not that team.
yeah.
They're not. I mean, England is not a team. Uh, it's just
Not to take away from Afghanistan, the way they've performed
no.
though.
Funnily enough, that one game produced the best and the worst teams of this competition. I think Afghanistan is the most likable. The team that makes you feel happiest was Afghanistan, and the team that really
Yeah,
makes you both annoyed and sad was England.
yeah,
I
no
mean,
doubt.
with all the problems that Afghanistan has, how do they produce players like this? Yeah, you have Ibrahim Zadran, you have Azmatullah Omar Sai, you have Sadiq coming in, Sadiqullah
Yeah,
Atal coming in that final game. Again, they played superbly well, couldn't win, yeah, but that was against Australia. Uh, but again, they produce a terrific performance. Yeah, they scored 273 against the Australian attack.
yeah. My question is that, which I wonder, is that these guys don't get to play the pace of a Wood or a Jofra Archer. How did they manage to play them? That is what baffles me, that they don't have that
Yeah,
amongst their ranks. But the way they played with them with the ease, there's something about it. There's something about it.
there is, and I think at some level, some degree of credit should also be given to Jonathan Trott. He's really brought in
Yeah,
these youngsters. He's given them that confidence to go out there and bat. The way guys like Sadiqullah Atal or Ibrahim Zadran and all that were facing up to extreme pace was outstanding. Even Spencer Johnson, for instance, they showed no problems against it.
that's true. Yeah,
I think if Afghanistan can think, I don't know what Gulbuddin Naib is doing in this side. He doesn't seem to fit into any sort of slot. You can't quite figure out why he is in the team. But Afghanistan has got a
okay.
very strong team now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, Prem, we can't end without talking about India Pakistan. We didn't speak about that game, which was supposed to be the mother of all games in this Champions Trophy, but turned out to be a damn squib.
Well, I have a slightly contrary opinion. I think that barring 2014, this whole hype about India Pakistan, it is the toughest of the rivalries. It is this, that, and the other. All of that is in the TV studios. It is not on the ground. India and Pakistan haven't been a proper contest for a long time. We just hype it, and this was such a one-sided game that it was. You felt again, you felt sad, but not so much because Pakistan, like somebody pointed out, Pakistan knew the conditions. They were playing at home. They knew that this is a low, slow kind of wicket. It's a pace-off wicket, and their attack is centered around their fast bowlers. They made the same mistake that England made, but they don't have the excuse that England has, which is that they are playing away from
Yeah,
home. Pakistan is playing at home. They should have known,
yeah.
and I don't know how they went and did that. It's just uh, they just
Their thinking is
never.
still, yeah, their
Yeah,
thinking is still
assuming there
very
is
in the
thinking.
90s. I mean, yeah, assuming that there is, because like I saw the press conference of the captain Rizwan, and he said that what are we doing different? Like everyone, you can't go in today's day and age in one day cricket. He said you can't go in with five specialist bowlers. I mean, if you're, I mean, that's a captain of a national team saying that, and he was like, look at India. He cited these two examples, and I was like, this guy is not in touch with what's happening in world cricket. They're
Yeah,
completely in a cocoon. They're playing on some other planet, because he was comparing. I mean, if you think Bracewell is not a frontline spinner, and if you think Santner is
yeah,
not a frontline spinner, then you really got something wrong about how cricket is played these days. It was surprising what he said.
yeah. And I mean, I was listening to. I think both of us are fans of that program, DP World, that Pavilion, which
Yeah, oh, that was
Fakhri
fun.
Azam hosts, and several of the points that they were making, the choice of team, the team selection, more than the people who were picked, it was the people who were left out that was surprising. Players who had actually shown promise, and now they're saying they're going to, they've summoned a lot of young players to a camp. They're going to completely revamp the team and all that. They should have been doing this before, not after. I mean, for Pakistan to be knocked out of a tournament they are hosting in just 5 days, is- you feel sad for the fans, not so much for the management and the team.
Yeah, yeah. But one good thing came out of it that we saw the value of old come back and get 100, a tall score that was, I think, for the asking. But I think it was more to do
Yeah,
with the bowlers because they gave him a comfortable total to play with. Had this been 280,
yeah,
285, I think it would have been a very different game.
yeah. Again, that's the thing about. You had at various times you had the opportunity to take the game or take charge of the game. You didn't. Uh, yeah, it's see, one of the reasons why you feel sad when you watch a performance like that, or you watch England, or you watch Sri Lanka, is you need all these teams to be, performing at their peak in international cricket, because otherwise, what do you have? You can't just have India versus Australia all the time. No?
Yeah, that's true.
And West Indies is in and out. Sri Lanka is didn't even qualify for this. England, I don't know how they qualified. They shouldn't have. And Pakistan is like this. That is four of the teams gone. With no
Yeah,
competition, no real spark. So what do you have left? You have South Africa. You have Australia. You have and you have Afghanistan. Yeah,
yeah. Now that's the only X factor team left because I thought world cricket. I mean, Pakistan and West Indies are two teams that have the X factor. They can turn a game from
yeah.
anywhere. They've won this format of big game, and they just always string up players who kind of really light up world cricket and fascinate us. And I think if these two countries start losing their power, even in the wide format, even if it's in the one day game, then cricket is in big trouble because you really can't
It,
Australia and
yeah,
England
it
games
is.
or South
And
Africa.
also, I mean,
Get too
yeah,
boring.
you you brought in the X factor part, and you brought in the point. These are teams that produce a certain. They're also teams that are full of character. There is a buzz when they take. Or there used to be a buzz when these teams take the field. West Indies, to an extent, still
Yeah,
produces it every now and again. Pakistan, they just the field, and you had this thing of anticipation. It's like sitting in a movie theater about to watch a thriller. You never know how it's going to turn out, but you want to be there. You want to be, watching, because they can produce magic or they can produce a debacle. But whatever it is, you wanted to be part of it. Now, no, yeah. In fact, I watched. To be honest with you, the only reason I watched India versus Pakistan is because we are doing this podcast.
thanks, Prem.
So, yeah. So,
Or I'd be spending time on the
so
podcast telling you what happened.
yeah,
But talking
seriously.
of India Pakistan, talking of India Pakistan, I was just looking at these frontline bowlers who Akib Javed, their interim coach, was talking about that this is amongst the top pace bowlers in the world. The Haris Rauf, Shaheen Afridi, and
Yeah.
Naseem. And I was just looking at the figures from just the India Pakistan game. If you see there, that Shaheen and this guy together, they gave away about 126 runs in their 15 overs that they bowled together with 15
For
boundaries. I
two
mean,
wickets.
15 loose balls that went for two
Yeah.
wickets. It was like, how can you call that a world class bowling attack?
Also, again, I mean, that show that on Pakistan TV, I remember listening to them dissecting the performance of the bowlers, and I think Wakar Yunus was the one who called out the fact that Shaheen, Naseem have both lost pace, and their strike rate has now become, I mean, you're taking a wicket once every 60 deliveries or something. You're paying something like 55, 60, 60 runs per, in the recent past, 50,
Oh,
55 runs per wicket. They may have been brilliant strike bowlers, but they're not at this point. Both have lost pace, both have lost that venom. I used to love watching Naseem Shah bowl, more than
yeah,
Shahin Shah Afridi. Naseem was, and they do have, for instance, they never played Hasnain, who's a
yeah.
good
I was
bowler.
just going to take his name.
Yeah,
Doesn't
Hasnain
he remind you of
looked,
Sami?
yeah, exactly. He's not flash like Shahin Shah Afridi, but impeccable control of line and length, and he's got a decent turn of pace. Yeah, it's not like he's slow medium or medium pace or something. He is fast. He's not as electric as a Harris Rauf. But that's also the thing. I keep wondering about teams that are picked on the basis of hype. Harris Rauf still today lives in my head rent free because of that one spell that he bowled to Shane Watson. But that Harris Rauf hasn't been seen in a long, long time. Somebody who just electrifies the stadium, but also torments the batsman into committing harakiri. He's still fast,
Yeah.
but he's not that Harris Rauf anymore. So
Yeah, and he leaks too many runs. He gives away. Wasim
yeah,
always complains about that he gives away too many loose deliveries, and great fast bowlers or good bowlers in great form don't do that. And when Wasim Akram
yeah,
speaks, you listen and you know what he's saying.
yeah. He does. He's always been expensive, but he used to strike, and he used to strike very hard. And because of
Yeah,
how he bowled, the bowler at the opposite end also used to benefit because he would create
yeah,
such pressure this end. But all of that is gone now. It's just, you know, the Pakistan attack and the England attack in that sense are exactly identical. A
yeah.
lot
Pretty
of,
toothless right now.
yeah, yeah, there is pace, but that's about it. And there's a lot of hype. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, Prem, from this tournament so far, which has been the one innings that stands out for you? Is it John Inglis, the 100 he made, or is it the 100 that came from the Afghanistan camp? Uh, which is the 100 or the Virat Kohli 100? Which is the one that really stands out for you?
Ibrahim Zadran. Ibrahim
Yeah.
Zadran's
What makes
100.
it so special?
Because, see, one is he's a young, upcoming talent. Uh, Always nice to watch somebody like that come into his own. But more to the point, Zadran's century, if you look at it, it had every shade that you need in a one-day game. He started out nice and fluent. He saw wickets falling at the other end. He reined himself in. He didn't mind that dot balls were accumulating. I don't think it's a good thing to not worry about dot balls, but he didn't mind that dot balls were accumulating, that the innings seemed to be going nowhere. He knew what he was doing. Throughout that middle overs,
Yeah.
he was pushing Afghanistan towards getting to 100 around the 25 over mark, getting to about somewhere close to 150 around the 30 over mark, and then he knew that he could accelerate, and he did. A lot of batsmen who look to play deep, like Kane Williamson today, for instance, he was looking to play deep and then he got out just when it was time to accelerate. Zadran actually was going at, I think, just under a strike rate of 100 till he got into the last 10, 12 overs. And then suddenly look at him, 177 from 146. Brilliant
Yeah.
acceleration. And for a young guy to have such a clear, sharp mind and the skills to pull it off, I think that was the innings of the tournament for me so far. Yeah, I agree.
And make it and make
English,
it one big. To
yeah,
take it to 170, because usually you make 100 and you feel like you're done, for a young guy,
yeah.
that you reached 100 in one day cricket on a big stage, you could have relaxed, but the guy continued. I mean, to get to 177 is a lot.
To get to 177, Faisal, but also look at what he had to do to get there, right? He was running out of legitimate partners at one end. He had to bat with the tail. He shepherded shepherded the tail without letting the run rate go down. In fact, he accelerated the run rate despite not having reliable partners at the other end. If a Virat
Yeah,
Kohli
yeah,
or a Kane Williamson or somebody of that caliber had done it, we would have still said, wow, what a superb
that's true.
batting performance for an Ibrahim Zadran at the age of what, 23? Coming
Yeah,
from a
he's
country
very
that
young.
doesn't get to play, he looked the finished article. Yeah, he looked so good.
Yeah, it's
And the
amazing.
day he
Yeah, I
fails,
think
the
I'll
other,
also go for
yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Yeah, they've
And
got
not to
others as
take
well.
away
The other guy
from,
is waiting.
yeah, not to take away from Kohli's 100, which again, he played across various gears, moved up and down as needed, and kept the innings going. Not to take away from English's 100, but yeah, this was special. What about a bowling performance? Which one would you pick
For me, I think I'd pick Varun's performance today. I think it was
today? Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I think he was phenomenal. I mean, not getting a game throughout, waiting. The moment he gets it, the way he grabs at it, it's unbelievable. And and I think the way he waited and the way he was studying, he takes very little time to understand the batsmen and what they're looking to do, and he's just at them. He just knows how to kind of fleece them into giving their wicket away. And I was just reading a really interesting article on Cricket Info about how he's using the lower part of his body to get more revs on the ball because has
yeah,
pace along with it. It's not that he just
yeah,
strides the ball or he's slow through the air. He's fast through the air. And my mind was going back to the time frame when Harbhajan Singh had made his debut, and and you were calling the 2001 to tell me that when he was at forward short leg or at silly point, they could hear the revs. They could hear the
yeah,
revs on the ball. Bajji had that zing. They could hear the zing.
yeah,
And I think Varun is actually getting that. It'll be interesting to find out from his teammates if they can hear the zing when he's getting those revs on the ball.
yeah. He uses his hip very well. That's something that Ashwin talk about. That the spinner. Everybody looks at the wrist and the seam position, the undercutting, and all of that. But that a lot of it is front foot drive and the hip rotating into the bowling stride, so that it gives power, that thrust, all of that. And yeah, Varun's doing that, and you're spot on about that. I know I saw the first two overs and I thought for a moment that maybe this is not the game where Varun is going to be effective. He was bowling tight, but the batsman seemed to be playing him comfortably. And then Varun slowly starts making changes to his line, his length, the amount of overspin that he was giving the ball, and then suddenly he becomes unplayable. He doesn't take time at
Yeah.
all to figure out what the conditions are, what the batsmen are like, all of that. I would have loved to see that matchup that I was looking forward from the moment I saw the team announcement. I saw Varun Chakravarti. I wanted to see Varun bowling against Rachin Ravindra.
Oh, that would have been a one. Maybe we might see it in the final if India gets there and New
You
Zealand
never
gets
know,
there.
yeah.
You might still
Seriously,
get to see it.
yeah,
You might still get to see it. But tell me one thing, what do you think is the similarity? I always compare Varun and he reminds me a lot of Rashan. Do you see similarities there or do you see that they have something very similar about them, though they are pretty different in their own way?
not similarities. So the similarities I think are in the mind more than the action or the way they bowl or whatever. They're very clear-headed, very thinking bowlers. You notice, for instance, take Ravi Jadeja, for instance. Jadeja has that. What is his ability? He's got immaculate control. He bowls wicket to wicket, and when he wants to, he slows the down and gives it a solid rip, so that suddenly there's this one ball that turns and bounces away from the batsman and puts panic in the mind. But if you take that out of the equation, he's got very little else. Even though we say that he is an all-purpose, all bowler, he's not really. If the wicket is not giving him assistance, then he's just coming onto the bat nice and easy. It is when there is grip and turn in the wicket that he becomes a force. So he has one skill that he is mastered, but what happens if you take that skill out of the equation, or what happens if the conditions negate that skill? Then he becomes, a spent force. Varun Chakravarti is the other kind of bowler. It doesn't matter what conditions are, because he keeps thinking it through, and he's got a whole variety of. We've been watching him bowl in all kinds of conditions. It's not like he same thing and gets the same kind of results. He keeps changing. He'll change his line. He'll change his length. He will come closer to the stumps and bowl when he wants that, or he'll go wide and create that angle. He'll bowl differently to the left-hander as opposed to the right-hander. He's got a whole lot of variety, and he's got a thinking brain that tells him what to do. And the thing about his bowling is, it doesn't look like he's doing much. See, batsmen struggle against him. Kane Williamson is trying to figure out where the hell the ball is landing and what it's doing after the thing. And Kane Williamson is no mug with the bat. He does play spin very well. Daryl Mitchell is known to play spin well.
Yeah.
Those guys just struggle. They had no answer to Varun. That, I think, is special.
Yeah, and it's like he's played seven seasons of IPL. They have so much
Yeah,
data on him. But I think the of Varun and Rashid Khan is that they keep inventing. They don't just continue doing what they're doing. Like Varun has some
yeah,
seven variations or whatever, but I think they keep improving and they keep improvising on what they're
correct.
doing. They don't keep season. They keep changing it a bit so that or studying them, they have new headaches every time, every new season of IPL and now international cricket.
Yeah. So if you're comparing Varun and Rashid, yeah, you can't compare their bowling styles. They're different. But what I would say is, at this point, as of today, I would put Rashid slightly ahead of Varun for only one reason. This guy has played forever. I think he's played since Noah landed us on the mount. I mean, Rashid and Nabi, and he's playing everywhere. He's in every. If there is a league, one of the first
Every
people who are picked is right. So everybody is seen years, and he still managed to torment the same batsman. He'll play against that guy in the PSL or in the Bangladesh league or in England somewhere or something. Then he'll come and play in the IPL, and the same batsman will get into the same trouble. For that reason, I would put
Bumrah of
Rashid just,
spinners.
yeah, seriously. I would put Rashid slightly ahead, but that's not to fault Varun. It's just that Varun hasn't played as long, so we don't know how enduring a skill will be. But
So, I mean,
yeah,
after all those deep points, Prem, one silly point and one silly question. I would know who's been the biggest failure for you in this Champions Trophy? Because I have one I want to talk about, so I want to ask yours first, and then I
the
want to let off
biggest
some steam.
failure, the biggest failure for me is a toss-up between Shahin Shah Afridi and Joss Butler.
Yeah, interesting.
Shahin Shah Afridi, because he is the spearhead of the Pakistan team and he looked completely flat. There was one brilliant Yorker that he bowled throughout this tournament. That is the one ball that stands out. Other than that, he's been a washout. Joss Butler, because he wasn't getting runs. He looked uninspirational in the field. His bowling changes, field setting, none of it looked like he had control over what was happening. And you can't keep making this excuse that it's a new coach. It may be a new coach, but these are players who have been around for some time. He's got the core of his team. Even if the coach is taking time to settle down, there's nothing to stop Josh Butler from calling the shots on the field. Butler just
Yeah,
looked completely helpless, completely clueless, and that translated into his batting also. He didn't play a single influential innings.
yeah,
And that's
that's
not the
true.
Josh Butler that I mean, this is the man who's won you a World Cup. The most lethal batsman that used to go around, and suddenly to see him in this. Yeah, so those are the two disappointments. Real disappointments.
Yeah, yeah. Mine is this bloke Livingstone, who's just been living on
Oh,
reputation for the longest time. He is supposed to be the finisher. I think England's performance over the last few months has been so bad because they're still banking on him on coming up and getting some runs, and he hasn't done that. Last 10 innings he's played, the ones including the matches in India, he's got 8 scores of under 14 runs. for a guy who's supposed to be finishing games after all the hard work done by, Duckett has been very good. Salt has played a few innings here and there, but Livingstone has been a complete disaster. He reminds me of Tim David, who's his
Oh
Australian
yeah,
guy, and he plays in the IPL for Mumbai Indians. You feel he's going to come out, he's going to win the game for you, but he never does. I don't remember at least that Tim David or Livingstone have played any, innings that has been after that 100 he got off 42 balls, which got him into the limelight. He's been a disaster, and I think England really kept on playing him through the series, through the one in India, and he's just not come good. I think he's been a really really big hole in their ship.
yeah, I agree. He's. I mean, I didn't pick Livingston because, face it, if the captain himself was kind of nowhere on the scene, then no point looking. I think England. Look, what is Jamie Smith doing at number three? What has he done to merit the number three slot behind the openers? Phil Salt's job seems to be to come hit two fours in the first over and get out in the second over. So a lot of
Yeah,
these guys are riding on a reputation that they're not doing enough to maintain that reputation. Uh, so you look down the ranks. Ben Duckett, yeah, I think he was one person who, to the best of his ability, played every single time he got. He came onto the park. But other than that, it's very
yeah,
hard to
but
think of.
did you read that funny thing? Prem, did you read? Sorry to interrupt you. Ben Duckett mentioning Ben Duckett. We'll go back to what you said. So Gibbs had an amazing thing to say about why England lost that match against Australia. He said it was because of Ben Duckett. Can you believe that? And he said that because Ben Duckett slowed down, making his 100, he wasted too many balls and they were short of about 20 runs because of that. And this is a guy who's been part of the greatest chase in one day cricket ever. That great 438 that Australia and South Africa played out, and he thought that Ben Duckett was the reason. I found that hilarious. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree that that innings slowed things down, and I also agree that they were a bit short. But to go after the one guy who scored some runs for you, yeah. But Herschel being Herschel, look, things about Herschel Gibbs is he's never, the kind who gets into his late 80s and all that and starts tuk and taking singles and all that. He'll still go for his shots. So he's talking from that mindset. But if you took Ben Duckett and his contributions out of this England side, okay, you
Be
can't
nothing.
perform any less than losing three out of three, but you would have lost even more horribly. All that said, I think it's time for curtains with. Okay, pick your finalists.
Uh, I'd say it's going to be a. I'd say India South Africa final. I think it's going to be a repeat of the T20. I think it's going to be India South Africa.
Hmm. I would
What about
also
you?
say so. I'm not 100% convinced that South Africa will defeat New Zealand. From the beginning of this tournament, I've been saying I think New Zealand is one of the teams that I rate as my favorite. Uh, I suspect that New Zealand just might topple South Africa. Uh, India, on balance, watching how India has played and how Australia has played, I think India can beat this Australian side. The one nightmare that you keep having in your head is Travis Head, but you get
Yeah,
Travis Head out early, it's almost a no contest. I
yeah.
think
I
India
think
can
we'll
India can
take
make a
back the
final.
revenge of the final. Yeah, be the
Yeah.
revenge of the
Oh
final
yeah, the
23.
last one, right?
Yeah, my
So
only reason of why I'm picking South Africa over New Zealand frame is that South Africa has got quality spinners. I rate Keshav really, really high. Maharaj is a quality spinner. And today I saw New Zealand struggle a bit against spin.
yeah, you have Keshav and you also have Tabrez Shamsi in case they want to play two spinners. So there is that, and I agree. Look, there's nothing previous South African teams, or at least say if you go back about 5, 6 years, 10 years, you could pick holes in the side. They had a lot of good things, and then they would have these little weaknesses which would magnify, and that is where they got their chokers label and all that. That I think is history now. They've got a team that covers all the bases. they've got X factor players, they've got steady uh, players, they've got a well balanced bowling lineup, like we discussed earlier. They're an outstanding fielding side. It's just that Glenn Phillips, with his acrobatics, catches so much attention that you don't realize that South Africa is not any less than New Zealand
Right.
when it comes to fielding. So they have all of that. Somehow I'm hoping that they, because one thing is for sure, New Zealand will put a tremendous amount of pressure on any side they play against, particularly in the field and with the
True.
ball. So let's see. And
So I'm saying
though
India, South Africa.
I yeah, and though I did say it'll probably be India New Zealand, I won't complain if it is India South Africa, for the simple reason that it'll be a cracker of a contest.
I'd love to see Klassen take on this pitch because that'll be the
Seriously,
contest.
na? Yeah, yeah.
That'll be the contest. That'll decide the final. That'll decide the match.
So we will do another out of turn episode before the final, after the semifinals,
Yes,
and
we
then
will.
we'll do the final.
Super.
So yeah. So thank you all. As always, if you like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, do all the right things, and we will see you with a postmortem of the semifinals and a preview of the final, and then obviously we'll see you after the finals. Thank you all, and good evening, good night.